Hey guys, it's John here from ZonGuru at our headquarters in Los Angeles, and welcome to another series of Amazon Seller Insights. This is a series where we interview sellers who are crushing it on Amazon, and we're just here to learn from them, to be inspired by them, and use it to fuel our own Amazon business. And today we have Tabrez, one of my good friends all the way out from Canada, and a lot of people know him and know he's an absolute guru on Amazon, so welcome Tabrez. Stoked to have you here. Yeah.
Thank you.
And today we're talking about scaling fast on Amazon. Everything about how you can grow your business on Amazon, from international markets to capital to growth hacks. And you know, it's great to have Tabrez here. He's got a lot of experience here. He sells in both. He's a seven-figure seller, first of all. He sells in Canada, the USA, and Europe. And he's right now he's really focusing on how to take his basic seven-figure business and scaling that as fast as he can. So anything about how to grow those businesses as quickly as possible, Tabrez is the guy. You know, I've known Tabrez for about a year now. We've been to different countries together. We've drank beer together. We've driven fast cars together. What I love about Tabrez, and what I love about some of the other young guys that are crushing on Amazon, like Raj, like Matt, you know, all the guys that we've interviewed so far, is that they are incredibly passionate about the space. They're hardworking. They're super intelligent. And most importantly, they're humble, and they want to give back as much as they can. So, you know, Tabrez is the epitome of that. I'm stoked to have you here today, and let's just dive into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
But maybe let's start with giving everyone here a little bit of your background. When did you start on Amazon, and what has been your high-level journey to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So around 2015, I was kind of researching different ways to make money online, and I guess because of the interests that I had on Facebook or my viewing history, I was starting to get targeted with some advertisements for like different e-commerce stuff and different ways to make money. And there was advertised for an FBA course, and the way that the person described it, it was a very simple process. And actually, the first time I heard it, I thought that it was a scam because it seemed so simple. So what I wanted to do was, I was actually trying to disprove the business model. So I was trying to find items online and sell them, and
move on from that and just be like,
yeah, and then move on and say, yeah, that's a scam, and then continue on with my life. Yeah. But I bought the stuff from Alibaba, sold on Amazon, and it worked. It was just that simple. And I was like, holy crap, you know. And actually, I ended up losing, I think it was $1 or $2 per unit on my first item, but I was still so happy because it was actually selling and the turnover was going. So I was like, if I can just increase the price by a little bit and decrease the cost by a little bit, then it could be profitable. And I didn't know anything about margins or ROI at that time. I just thought if I can make 50 cents or $1, I'll do that like 1,000 times, and that's how I'll make my money. So at that point, I was testing out a couple different third-party platforms. Like I was testing out eBay, Etsy was another one, Amazon. I was doing FBM at that time, just kind of testing out a whole bunch of different things to see what would work. And I tested out FBA because, especially coming from Canada, shipping is quite expensive to the States. And if you want tracking, it's pretty much going to make it uneconomical. So I tried FBA, and things worked. Actually, I was selling a few units every day, and then when I sent myself into FBA, my sales picked up, and I thought that there was a glitch in my app because it went up like maybe 10 times.
Yeah, that's a key point right there. I think back in those days,
oh man,
if you weren't selling on FBA, you weren't getting any kind of traffic. But as soon as you switch it to FBA, it just goes crazy.
And then I was getting more sales. The shipping cost was cheaper, and I didn't have to do any work. I didn't have to wake up 2 hours before my day job at the time to mail out all these packages. So after I kind of saw the value in that, I went all out into Amazon, and then since then I've just been learning and trying to optimize and adapt with the times.
Awesome. And yeah, so why don't we just dive into this whole idea of scaling right now and how to grow your Amazon business. What are your thoughts around how to pick a product, how to test a product, and how to, you know, grow your line so that you have a quick, efficient way of growing your Amazon business?
Yeah, so I think you can divide this Amazon business into two parts. One is product research, and the second is everything else after the product research. And I think they're both equally as important. If anything, that one step of product research is even more important because that will determine, that's the foundation of your business, you know. And depending on the product that you choose, it's either going to be a downhill ride or an uphill struggle, you know. So it's very important that you spend lots and lots of time getting that perfect product. Sometimes what I tell people actually is don't worry so much about the product in the beginning. Just get a whatever item and get it up there and get it going just so you understand the rest of the process. So next time you come around, you can really focus all of your attention on getting that right product, and you'll learn a lot of the other nuances that come with experience of actually having a product launched and getting it up there.
I think that's a really good piece of advice. Like if you're just starting out, it's, you know, you did it, you put it up there, you lost $1 or $2 the first time, but that really helped you to just get familiar with Amazon. But I totally agree that as you grow your business, that product research is critical, because that 6 months of effort that you're putting in could either make you, you know, hundreds of thousands a month, or it could make you five, you know. So you have to pick right, because once you pick right, the money just comes.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want a business that's going to be around for many years, you definitely want to make sure that foundation is right. And you know, don't be so putting a lot of pressure on yourself to get everything right the first time around. Like I'm still learning a lot with every new product that I launch. There's new tricks, new tips that I learn. So you know, things don't have to be 100% for you to make a lot of money on Amazon. I think if you get things about 85% optimized, that should be good enough, and move on to the next step. You know, I see a lot of people trying to perfect things, and they get analysis paralysis, and they end up taking 2 months on something, which you know, could be done in a couple weeks. So instead of spending 3-4 months on product research, that might be one thing that in the beginning, just do the best you can, go through the process, understand the steps, and then next time you come around, refine that process.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think even in today's Amazon, if you really take your time right now, things are moving much quicker. So by the time you've done your research and you've got your product and you've launched, there's a bunch more competition out there. So if you're onto something, you need to move with it and get it there as soon as you can.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
So what else around? Tell me about how you test getting something. Like right now, you've done a lot of thinking and actually testing around how you launch a product. You test it a little bit and then you go more all in at a later stage. So what's your process there in terms of how you approach like launching stuff and testing it on Amazon?
Yeah, so for example, I'll try to launch a new product. Like I'll usually launch 3 or 4 products at a time. And what I'll do is, like let's say for example, you're selling a watch, right? I'll do 4 different variations of a watch, but they're not all going to be the same type of variation. Like they're not all going to be color variations. For example, I might do 1 color variation, I might do 1 size variation, I might do 1 functionality variation, and then there's 4 different, maybe 4 different types of watches. And depending on the sales, finding the gaps in the market, usually you'll get different results from the different variables. So if you're finding that maybe a specific color or a specific function or a specific size is working, then I'll try to, on the reorder, what I'll do is I'll exploit that variable more. So I'm testing out different things that I could make different. So what I think of each time I launch 3 or 4 products in the beginning, what I think of that is a seed that I'm planting. So from that seed I'm planting, out of those 4, 3 of them I might break even on, But that 1 of them might be strong sales, might be finding a good gap in the market. So that was the first order. Now the second order, what I'll do is I'll expand more on that variable, and at the same time, what worked on the first order, I'll then make an order internationally for that one. So it's kind of like the international markets are 1 order behind the US markets. That's kind of how I've done it a little bit. And kind of just following that trend and looking for items that I could expand product lines, and also kind of have a culturally translate into different countries. So like some stuff is going to be very hard to sell internationally, but some stuff will cross over quite well. So I think the knowledge of that kind of comes over time. But also you can use a lot of research, a lot of tools out right now too, so you can see if the markets that you're selling in the States are also good options in Europe. And one important thing to remember when you're doing your product research in Europe is that there's 5 countries over there. So even if you're looking at sales data for the UK or for Germany, it might show low sales for that one country, but cumulatively it might be good. And also because there's less competition over there, margins are usually better there, ROI is better over there usually. So most times it's a lot more efficient use of your capital.
Gotcha. So you're testing in the US with a couple of variations. You get a winner, you reinvest in that in the US, and then you take more of that capital and you invest it into the international markets. Now, one question I have there is do you go 1 or 2 rounds in the US before you go internationally from a cash flow perspective, or do you do it immediately on the second order?
Usually, if something's working, I'll prioritize going international for that specific item over testing out a new product in the States, because the probability of that product being a success internationally is higher than testing a new product.
Gotcha.
So I'd rather have the safe money than kind of risking it.
Okay, gotcha. Now, so let's talk more about international. What are some of your learnings there from Europe is kind of contentious because you have different tax laws, you have different countries, there's distribution, things that could all work from one market, maybe from different markets. Tell us a little bit about that in terms of, is it working for you? Seems like it is, but what are some of your learnings from specifically Europe, I think, first?
Yeah, for sure. So there's certain tax implications you need to be aware of if you're selling in the UK or anywhere in Europe. So I would definitely speak to an accountant about that. I can kind of give you what I've done, but at the end of the day, I can't really give accounting advice, and everybody's situation is different. That's my disclaimer. Yeah. I'm not an accountant.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the gist of it is, for most people, it's going to be beneficial to open up a UK company, because if you don't have a UK company set up and you're selling in Europe, you have to start collecting VAT right away. And VAT is it's tax inclusive. The price is tax inclusive. So if you're selling this for it's usually 20%. So if you're selling something for like $120, you can't charge an extra 20% on top of that. Actually, that got to come out of your bottom line. Mm-hmm. So if you have a UK company, you actually have something called a VAT threshold, which I believe is either 83 or 85,000 pounds of.
You have to make that in sales before they tax you, right?
Exactly. So you don't have to collect any VAT. So you're pretty much saving 20% on your first 83,000 pounds in sales. And then after you pass that, not trying to go too complicated, but pretty much any country that you store your goods in, you're going to have to be VAT registered in there. But there's a way where you can just set up a UK company and have all your goods stored in the UK, and then sell to the other European countries from the UK. So your goods are not actually stored in Germany, they're not stored in all these other places, so you don't have to be VAT registered in all these places. So especially in the beginning, if your turnover is low and you don't want extra steps to complicate the process and kind of confuse yourself, you can get by selling in Europe with great margins, great ROI, without being VAT registered in any country. Mm-hmm. And setting up a UK company is quite cheap, I think, like maybe $300. And it's quite a simple process too.
And out of the European countries, what is the order of countries from a sales volume?
Yeah.
What sells best? What sells worse?
Yeah.
Does it differ by product?
Yeah, I would definitely say it differs by product, but Germany generally is the biggest.
Bigger than the UK?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Germany is the biggest, and then followed by the UK, and then I'd say France, Italy, Spain.
Gotcha. So let's switch gears a little bit. Maybe let's talk about capital and cash flow. What are your thoughts around that in terms of, how do you grow your capital, grow your business, but at the same time get the right balance between that and cash flow so that you can get your next orders and keep things going? Do you run out of stock? Are you good at that, or you not? What are your thoughts around that?
I mean, with Amazon, it's very tricky sometimes trying to get your inventory right, because sometimes if your stuff works, it works really well. And you might be selling out a lot faster, which might sound like a good idea. I mean, it might sound like a good problem to have until you have that problem, and then you're like, this kind of sucks, you know?
You see how much money you leave on the table.
And it takes time to get your bestseller ranking back up when you run out of stock. So you want to make sure that you order enough stock. It's very important. But I mean, you got to find that balance between over-capitalizing in certain products and running short. I guess you got to find out what your specific situation is, how much cash you have. Like if you're running very tight on capital, then you got to be a little bit more efficient with your, your inventory management. But a couple of things which I struggled with a lot in the beginning was, if I could give anybody tips, if this is like your side thing or you're starting it off and you have another source of income, like this is a great business, but one of the things is it's a very cash-intensive business. It's a very cash-intensive business. You have to pre-purchase all this inventory before you can start collecting sales and collecting cash from it. So try to leave this money untouched for as long as you can. If you could do it for a year or two, it will help you out a lot. Like it really will. Another thing too is if educate yourself on cash flow. You can even it's something as simple as going on YouTube and finding cash flow videos. To manage your cash flow. So what I do now is I create 2 cash flow spreadsheets pretty much. One is a month by month. It's an 18-month cash flow projection. And then another one is like an 8-week, week by week cash flow projection. And kind of just seeing where you're at, and if you're planning on ordering more stuff or expanding internationally. It's better to plan ahead than to be like, I need to order now. Shit, I don't have money for it.
Maybe some details on that. How do you put together your cash flow projections? What are the actual numbers that you look at? Like sales velocity based on today, or how do you actually do that?
Yeah. Try to do something like that. So for example, let's say I order $10,000 worth of goods today, and it's going to take maybe 1 month to manufacture, and it'll take maybe 6 weeks to ship over here, and maybe I'll give it a 2-week margin just for errors, because there's usually some mess ups over there.
Yeah.
So like let's say it takes 3 months to get over there. As soon as that stock's hit and it starts selling, you're going to need to reorder right away. Because it's going to take 3 months for the next order to come in, and you want to be very conscious of not running out of stock.
And having the cash flow to do it.
Exactly. So you could kind of say you need 6 months cash for any given product. And my advice is, if you're tight on capital, less is more. It's better to make sure you're fully stocked up on one item and you have the resources to handle that, than to try to spread yourself too thin and end up running out of stock and then having to spend a lot more money on relaunching these products. The cheapest and most efficient way to do it is to have an item, never go out of stock on it. And sometimes, even if you don't have the best converting listing, even if you don't have the best price, even if you don't have the best offer, you can get a best sellers ranking than a lot of these people simply by outlasting them in terms of having your inventory never run out of stock.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because if you can have competition, but like a lot of us sellers, your competition is going to run out of stock at some point. Yeah. And if they do, you just see your listing spike. And if you can stay, you'll get a ramp up on them. And even if they come back into stock, you're going to be doing better than them. So if you can stay in stock for the long term, your product is going to grow for sure. What about Amazon and its loans? Is that if it comes your way and they offer it, you take it?
Yeah, I think it's only applicable if you're living in the US, which I'm assuming like most people here are from the US, so that's a good advantage for you guys. I actually don't have that benefit being in Canada.
Okay.
I could say my business address is in America and then I could get approved for it, but I don't know if that's if that's a smart way to do it. But I think in Canada and UK, you have it over there, and it's a really good way of financing, because it's just like they take it out of your disbursements and they make it very easy. So if you do get offered that, I think it's a great. And there's some people saying stuff like, it's high interest, right? And I guess it is high interest compared to other methods of financing. But if you're looking at products that are going to give you like 100% ROI, and you can flip that over 3 times in a year, potentially 300% ROI on these items, 20% interest on a loan to enable you to do that. It's almost like you're not expensing 20%, but it's enabling you to do like 280.
Yeah, and I've had those loans, and I think it's worthwhile taking them, because again, like you can take a small first loan, which they offer usually small at a high interest rate, and just pay that back, whenever they take the money out of your account, or quicker, and then they'll immediately give you a second loan higher at a much lower percentage. So, and my feeling on that as well is that the algorithm or Amazon recognizes you as like, hey, this guy's taking the loans and he's paying it back, so we're making more money, he's making more sales, let's keep loaning him, let's keep giving him better rates, and let's just keep selling his products. So I think it all benefits. If Amazon gives you one of their products and says, try it, you should give it a try. It definitely benefits you for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what about Amazon Australia? I mean, is that something that you're thinking about?
Yeah.
What do you think about?
Actually, I tested it out. I do have some stuff over there in Amazon Australia. Like, I got it out there as soon as I could, as soon as I heard the announcement. But it's gonna take time to pick up over there, I think. Like online shopping in Australia, it'll take time. Like, first of all, there's a couple things you have to consider, right? First of all, the population. Population is very small over there, you know? So it's like probably less than 10% of America. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, I could be wrong on this because I don't have a, like, you know, very accurate sense of spending a lot of time over there, but I think it's gonna take a little bit longer to pick up people to feel comfortable online shopping over there as it is in America. Like America.
Yeah, I think there it's much more retail heavy right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it'll come and it'll be a good opportunity, but in the future, you know.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think it's back in like the good old days of Amazon where it's a land grab. So if you can get in there early with, you know, even products that aren't as differentiated, yoga mats, I don't know, whatever, you know, if you can be there first, you've got that historical, you know, tracking, and your sales is going to go up once it picks up more and more. So how did you get in there? Like, is it easy or?
Well, it was by invitation only. So you gave them your email, and then whenever they were rolling it out. But now I think it's open, available to all people. Mm-hmm. But another good thing about those markets is usually you'll be able to get better margins, a better ROI over there. So maybe a very competitive category in America might still have enough demand in Australia, and it'd be a very efficient way for you to grow your capital.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe give us some of your good like growth hack tips, or maybe some of your Amazon tips, maybe just a couple that you've learned over the years that are already super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, expanding international has been probably the best thing that has benefited me in terms of like the ROI is a lot better over there. Like I said that a few times, but like it's really been an important part of my business. Less competition, less saturation, and it's also a little bit of like risk mitigation too. You know, you're having stuff coming from multiple places, and it's on a different Seller Central account too. So there's a lot of benefits that come with it. But I mean, the best thing that I could say is try to develop a process or a system to launch products, and just document everything that you guys are doing, and launch the product, see what works, see what doesn't, and then modify that process accordingly, you know? Make the changes, but use that process as kind of like the Bible for how to launch products. And that's your go-to thing, and you're gonna keep revising that. And then after you get a good process going, it's easy to just keep cranking out products, you know, once everything's systemized. And if everything's systemized, it's very easy to outsource, very easy to delegate. So a really good book that I read was Principles by Ray Dalio. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how he developed good principles, and he put them in the form of algorithms, and it helped him make decisions when he was picking stocks and playing the markets and everything. Like Ray Dalio, for those of you who don't know, he runs he's the founder of the biggest hedge fund in the world, you know. So he said that was one of the biggest things to help him. So I just took some of those philosophies and try to apply it to how I'm launching products. So not solely depending on that, but using that to assist your thinking.
No, that's awesome advice. Okay, so everyone asks this question. It's like, oh, Amazon is much more competitive now than it was. You've been selling on Amazon for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends or some of the things that you're seeing happening now versus what they were? Or, you know, is it this whole like, oh, it's not worth it anymore? Or is it just a different way of thinking right now? Maybe give us some insight.
Yeah. Okay, well, I definitely would say it is a lot more competitive now. It definitely is a lot more saturated. But there's a lot more like crap out there. You know what I mean? At the same time, there's been a lot more sellers that join, but there's been far more buyers that are joining, and people that are buying even more. So I think the stakes are higher. If you get it right, you'll get more than what you would have gotten a year ago. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's exactly an all or nothing game, but it's further along the spectrum towards that side. If you get it right, you're gonna do good. Like, I remember when I started, you could kind of half-ass a lot of stuff and still still sell pretty good. You could have mediocre listings, mediocre pictures and all that kind of stuff, and you could launch a product without doing any giveaways or any ranking kind of strategies, and you'd be fine. Now you definitely have to be a lot more legit. You definitely have to have a better offer for the customers, but if you nail all those things, there's a lot more money in it. And in terms of saturation, I would say the European markets are probably like 18 months or 24 months behind the US. So while maybe 2 years ago there was a lot of easy opportunities in America and those are kind of drying up, those opportunities are still there overseas.
Gotcha. Yeah. So maybe give us a little bit more insight into how advice for first-time sellers, like how do they get it right nowadays? Like what is the area they should be focusing versus how it used to be done? How do you get it right now?
Right. So first of all, I would say that kind of going back to what I said earlier is maybe don't worry so much about getting a home run on the first product. Just try to learn and kind of play the long game on it. And if you are taking that method, like you can even get a couple units and send it to Amazon and get the photos. Like don't go all out. Like keep your budget very low for that. Conserve your money for when you're trying to really go at it. And build out systems, build out processes, how you do this is how I did this, and then tweak things as necessary. Like you definitely don't want to cheap out on your photos. If your product has good like digital rendering, you can get like 3D scans from them. That works great. It looks amazing for certain products. Good graphic designs. Like you don't have to do these things yourselves. You can go on Upwork.com. You can find great people on there that could do it for like anywhere between $200 to $600, and you can find great people. So you don't have to be so skilled in all these things, but they have to be done by people that are skilled.
So differentiation versus like a Me Too way of going to market is absolutely
yeah, exactly. And I see a lot more Me Too products coming out now because Amazon is becoming a lot more popular, and those Me Too products are a lot easier to launch. They're a lot easier to launch, but there's a lot easier for your competition to come in and kind of undercut you at the same time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So play the long game on this. Like after you kind of understand the system, try to really differentiate yourself and make a unique offer, and try to be around for a long time, really add value to the customer.
Awesome. So maybe we'll just go like one or two more questions and then open it up to you guys. Tell me a little bit about your mindset, your entrepreneurial mindset. How do you approach every day? Being an Amazon seller for at least 3 years now, how do you create your day so that you can get the best out of it for your business?
Yeah, I would definitely say for myself, I notice I'm a lot more productive in the morning than in the evening. So as soon as I wake up, I try to crank out 2-3 hours on Amazon. Like I don't really eat breakfast first thing in the morning. So literally as soon as I wake up, I'm on the computer for like 2-3 hours. Then I'll eat, I'll go to the gym, try to keep my energy high. But those 3 hours, if you're in peak productivity, you're getting more done than what some people do in 8 hours. So it's not necessarily about the hours you work. And also find ways to leverage yourself. Don't get caught up in the day-to-day. Some stuff takes up a lot of time but brings very little value. So try to find the 80-20s in your businesses, the things that you could do that bring the most value. And don't worry about getting 100% perfect on all these things. Get 80%, move on to the next thing. And after you find a good process, don't worry about tweaking and optimizing your existing products to get that little bit extra. Just launch another product. That's the fastest way for you to grow your money.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So when you hit your 8 figures, which I know is your goal, and you're going to be your 8 figures a year, what's your reason why? What is like the impact that you want to create, and why are you going down this journey? What's your reason why? Why did you get into this, and why do you want to be so successful in this space?
I mean, it's something I think about a lot, and something, my reason why it changes as time goes on. But I mean, I think in order to kind of make a difference in the world, money's important. You need money to do things. I think that's safe to say.
That's true.
So I think this is the fastest way to build your capital. Like just to be honest, I think it's the fastest way to build. Like I started this stuff with like $2,500, 0 employees, Right now I still pretty much have 0 full-time employees. I have a couple of people I work with on a per project basis, graphic designers, photographers and stuff like that. My stuff's super lean, no overhead. So there's
you have a great software that you use as well.
Yeah, the software called ZonGuru. It's amazing, guys. No, actually, just touching on that, I was doing my accounting the other day, and like I realized how much I was paying for subscriptions for so many different things, and they add up. Like you don't really notice it, $20, $30, $50 a month here and there. And actually, I canceled a lot of my other things, my financial analysis, what's the other, keyword tracking software. There's a number of them, and I'm just using your software, and honestly, it's been really good. And guys, like I've used ZonGuru for like, actually even before I knew you, John, I was using ZonGuru. Yeah, so I was using it for 2 years, and I've seen how much it's developed over the past 2 years. And these guys really pay attention to what sellers need. And they're sellers themselves too, so they know the ins and outs of, you know, all the intricacies. So these guys give you really, it's a full suite of software, you know.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Good to hear that. I like that impromptu plug there. Cool. So I think that's it from this interview. Maybe we can pass it on if you guys have specific questions. We can get Tabrez to answer some of the questions. So I'm going to pass this mic around. Who's got a question? Chris.
All right. If you were to expand internationally, it sounds like Europe would be the first place to start outside of the U.S. Can you like rank? You know, you're in Canada, you're in the U.S. You've tried out Australia. Like, where would you rank the international markets from? You know, most lucrative to the least.
Yeah, I mean, like it'll definitely depend on your products. So before, when I first started, it was about 70% US, 20% Europe combined, and 10% Canada. And then it became, you know, 50% US, 40% Europe, 10% Canada. Now European sales are actually doing a little bit more than my US sales. Wow. And the margin's better too. And the ROI stayed the same, less saturation. So I would say like Germany is my biggest market over there. UK is also quite nice. Yeah, Europe's good, man. Don't sleep on Europe. It's a good opportunity.
So what can you like lay out the steps to get like enter the US market? I know you mentioned opening up a UK kind of company.
Oh yeah, simple. Okay, so you want to make sure you kind of have your corporate structure figured out before, because when you have your North American account, you can go in your back end, you can change your company information, you know, corporate information. This is, you know, legal entity, all that kind of stuff. In Europe, actually, you can't change that. Once it's set, it's set. So you want to make sure you have your company set up before you create an account over there. And they're like a little bit more strict over there, so you're gonna have to get them a little bit more paperwork, but it's nothing confusing. I mean, like within one day, you can get all of it done. So all you want to do is speak to a UK accountant, set up a UK company, and the reason being is so you get that VAT threshold, and then you just start selling. I mean,
how did you find your UK accountant?
I think I got it from a referral. Maybe if you guys want somebody to speak to me after, I'll be happy to refer you guys over.
Facebook group.
Yeah, for sure. And then I used a service, translated.net, to translate all my listings. It was very cheap. You don't want to use Google Translate because it doesn't copy everything exactly over. So I think translated.net, they use something like that, but they also have a human to kind of review it and make sure everything looks fine.
Did you see a difference in your conversion rate from before you translated it versus when you were, or did you just translate?
I translated it right off the bat, yeah.
How many like different listings in different languages do you have for one product?
There's 5 European markets. One of them is England, which is going to be the same as, well, more or less it's going to be the same. There's going to be certain things which are going to be different. And depending on your category, you're going to want to pay attention to those. Like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there's certain words that are different, but 5 different languages, 5 different European markets.
And do all the, like, for example, ZonGuru or JungleScout, do all those tools work for European markets?
Well, ours does, yeah. So basically, you know, your email automation, your product research, all that kind of stuff, we make sure it works in all the markets, so yeah.
I got 2 questions. First is price. Obviously, I'm assuming you sell for a higher price in Europe than the States.
Yep.
How much higher percentage? And the second is inventory. Do you have any issues with inventory that lasts, you know, that stays too long in Europe, and then rates higher, and how you deal with any returns or anything?
Right. I mean, inventory management is going to be pretty much the same as it's going to be in the US. It's more or less like it's not very different at all. you'll use one inventory pool to sell to all 5 different countries. So you can add up all the sales and do your orders.
If you have too much inventory like in the States, I could just send it home or something like that.
I mean, yeah, it would probably be very expensive to kind of send it to a prep center and send it back. So at that point, I would probably just liquidate it and try to get my money back. I mean, you got to run the numbers. In terms of pricing, I do price a little bit more. So like, let's say I'll sell something for $19.99 in the States. I might sell it for like 22.99 euros. Because there's certain things to be aware of too. Like if you're selling, they'll give you an option if you're selling in Europe to do like pan-European is an option. I would stay away from that, because what pan-European does is it allows you to, you just send it to the UK, but then after on the back end, Amazon will shift it around, you know how like when you send something to the States, you'll send it to one warehouse, but maybe after Amazon will send some to this based on sales. So they'll do the same thing in Europe, but now you're storing goods in a different country, so you need to be VAT registered in that country. So you're going to be creating tax problems for yourself. So I would stay away from that in the beginning. But at the same time, if you are going to be selling from UK to Germany, like selling in Germany, inventory from UK, you're going to have to be paying a cross-border fee. And I think depending on the product, it might be anywhere 1.5 euros, 2 euros. So you got to factor all that into your cost. So that's where something like ZonGuru will be extremely, extremely valuable, because you may think on the surface you're making good money on it. I remember actually for some of my products, for 2 months, I had good sales over there, and I wasn't using a financial analysis tool because I was trying to be a little cheap. I was trying to save money, and I found out for 2 months I was actually breaking even on my products because they were low-cost items, and I only needed to make a couple bucks to hit my goals, and those couple bucks were being eaten up by cross-border fulfillment fees. So that's something to pay attention to.
Different fees, Amazon fees, depending on what market you're in.
Higher margin. I don't understand how that's calculated, because you're eating up a higher percentage of the service cost is higher in Europe, and you're only raising the price a little bit. So when you say higher margin.
Yeah, so I raised it a little bit, and my sales kind of kept the same. And then I raised it a little bit more, and my sales kind of kept the same.
There's less competition, so
Yeah.
you can charge more.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of feels weird selling something for very expensive in Europe, but I feel like they're almost used to paying a little bit more of a premium. So that was kind of a false thought process in my head that I needed to change. So yeah, you can price things for more in Europe. Yep.
So I'm researching expanding Europe myself.
Yeah.
And I've heard that they return a lot in particularly England.
In England.
Return a lot.
I mean, it'll depend on your product, but I think their standard for quality is higher in Europe than in the States. So if you have a crap product, your return rate might be a little bit higher in Europe. But if you sell a good quality product, you should be fine.
That's good advice. Yeah.
So for international, so I looked into international last year, and in terms of like product research, like do you take like your best sellers and just you're gonna try it out in the UK, or do you look for products that you think are gonna be specific for the European market?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, I've been lucky that a lot of my products actually went over anyways, and instead of trying to complicate the process, coming out with a new product, new packaging, new supplier, I just transferred my existing products over. I never actually did an initial launch in Europe, but actually going forward, I think that might be the route I might be taking, because like I said earlier, there's a lot more saturation in the States, and I don't want to sell, like if I have a finite amount of capital and I want to grow fast, I want to put my money where I'm getting the highest ROI, and that's going to be Europe. So that might be a method I might start doing in the future.
Okay, and then second question, in terms of like product research, say you are starting to research a new product, like in comparison to say, for example, like a sleeping mat, camping sleeping mat, right? You get bestsellers who have 2,000 reviews, and say the same company is selling that same product in the UK, but they only have, say, their bestseller, but they only have 9 reviews on it. And like the European market just doesn't have that high of rating. So like, how do you determine like what would be bestsellers or what would be, you know, products that have good traction on sales? And keep in mind, this is what I researched last year, so I haven't looked at it ever since.
Right.
So it might be different.
Right. I mean, like market by market, I think any given market is going to be less than the US, but combined is where the kind of it's going to be more than the US. So Although it might seem less, together it'll be a little bit better. And I mean, using tools like ZonGuru can help you figure that out too. And in terms of the reviews, I find that when I set up email follow-up sequences in the European countries, my response is better and my review rate is better over there too. It's kind of just like a more mature market, right? Like think about when like when you get emails, you know? Before, when you get emails, you go through a lot of them. Now you get so much junk email, you don't even bother with it, right? Now there's different stuff out like Facebook Messenger, you know, Facebook Messenger advertising. A lot of people are going through there and they're getting great click-through rates, open rates, and all that kind of stuff. But over time, that'll go down. I feel like that's what it's like in America. You know, people are so used to Amazon, they're buying stuff. Maybe the first time you got an automated email from a seller, you opened it, you went through it. But if you're buying stuff all the time, you're gonna start ignoring those. People aren't as used to that in Europe, so they're more responsive to that. So if you strategize correctly, you can really set yourself up for that maturity.
That's great. Any more questions? Anybody? Yeah. Do you want to grab the mic?
Hi. So I know that it depends on the product, but so you're selling across on the EU is like a lot of countries. So how do you make sure your product is is follow the regulation in the country? So because different countries have different regulations.
So if it's like an electric product, how do you make sure it's?
Yeah, so like I think for certain things you have to be careful of, and that's just you doing your due diligence. Like I think for electronic products, in the States you have to be FCC certified. In Europe you have to be CE certified. So what you can actually do is you can use an inspection agency in China, and what they could do is not only inspect the goods and make sure everything's right before they leave China, they can also let you know what certifications are needed, and also maybe your freight forwarder might be able to let you know about that too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, make sure you have a third-party inspection company who does this all the time. They'll tell you exactly what you need, and then same goes for your freight forwarder.
Yeah, and nowadays, like it's a lot more competitive and stuff too. So when I first started, I could just launch like a few products, 10 products at a time, or I mean 10 units of a product at a time, air freight it in, see if it sells, then reorder it. But nowadays you can't really do that because of the launches and everything. So you have to do much larger initial orders. So if you're investing that much more capital, I would definitely recommend get a inspection agency in China to make sure everything's right before you make the final portion of your payment, you know, a 70% remainder payment.
Anything more? You know what? Huh? Nate?
I got one.
Okay.
I guess just generally speaking, what are some strategies that have worked for you for PPC and advertising?
Yeah, I mean, for PPC, I think one of the best ways to go about it now and the most efficient use of your capital is to go for the long tail keywords, because not only is there going to be less competition for them, the bids are going to be cheaper, and they're usually a lot more relevant. So for example, if you're searching up water bottle, that might be a very expensive keyword to bid after. And if people are typing in water bottle and you're popping up, that's such a broad keyword like that usually means people are kind of in the researching mindset, you know, they're looking for what water bottle to buy. But if they're typing in double-walled fruit infuser water bottle, it means they know what they want, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a lot less competitive, the bid is going to be a lot cheaper, and the conversion is going to be higher. So long tails would probably be the best use of, most efficient use of your capital.
And how do you find those long tails?
I mean, there's different softwares that you can kind of do keyword research with, and then it'll populate a list of keywords and you can get estimated search volume results. Also, if you run an automatic campaign on your product, not necessarily with the mindset of trying to make money off of that first campaign, but more for research, if you're willing to run it for like a couple weeks or something like that, just to kind of gather data, that's a good way to get a list of long tail keywords. And it'll give you it'll give you the actual search volume for those keywords from Amazon, so that's quite reliable as well.
Awesome. Oh, you got a question?
The microphone.
Yeah. Let's do last question. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I was just curious, kind of how many brands and products do you have, and do you build mailing lists? How do you have time to build out the infrastructure from those products?
I have about 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably have like 5 or 6 product lines out right now on separate accounts, and I have not used any of my own mailing list yet. I haven't needed to, but I think the way it's going, especially in the States, it's becoming more and more beneficial and more necessary. So going forward, that's probably something I'm going to be spending more time on. In terms of launching products, like there's still third-party platforms you could use to give away your units. Like let's say if you're trying to rank for a certain keyword, what you do is do a giveaway for that keyword. You know, send people to a super URL at a highly discounted rate to kind of get that initial velocity going. So Amazon puts you in that spot and you can start getting those sales organically. It's nice to have an email list for like multiple reasons. But in the beginning, if that's outside of your skill set, it is absolutely not necessary because I haven't used any of it till date.
Can you share what the giveaway service is that working for you, or
Yeah, there's a number of them.
Market Hustle with Keith.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's Market Hustle. It's spelled like market and then hustle without an E at the end. That's a great service. I'll check them out. They'll give you everything you need, and they're pretty knowledgeable on the super URLs, and they'll kind of have a talk with you, strategize the best way to go about it, and execute that for you.
maybe for products that didn't work out, do you have some kind of advice on how you kind of?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's majority of products that didn't work out weren't differentiated enough. You know, they weren't. They were like another Me Too product. You know, and doing that is like you're starting to sell commodities instead of more unique items. When you're selling another item that's not very differentiated, you got to compete on price, and that's a race to the bottom, and it's not very long term, not very sustainable. So kind of having something a little bit unique, a little bit more innovative, it'll make your product life cycle a little longer, and you can maintain your margins for longer.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thanks for coming through and
Thanks for
spending a
having
few
me.
days in LA, and thanks for coming out for these guys. And let's maybe give Tabrez a little hand for that. Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.